Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing a little time travel, heading all the way back to the banks of the Kshipra River in Ujjain. We're talking about an empire so radiant, its fame literally echoed across India and right into ancient Arab and European texts. We are diving into the story of the Parmar dynasty's absolute greatest, most formidable, and mysterious ruler. A king whose life sounds like pure magic, but whose actual historical footprint is completely undeniable. Let's get right into the epic saga and uncover the truth behind Ujjain's immortal emperor, King Vikramaditya.
So here is the massive question we have to answer. Was Vikramaditya just a mythological story, or was he history's greatest emperor? You know, this exact debate has fired up historians and storytellers for centuries. Because on one hand, you've got these spine-chilling supernatural legends. We're talking graveyards, ghosts, mysterious tantrics, the whole shebang. But on the other hand, we have rock-solid historical evidence. Take the Vikram Samvat calendar, for instance. Millions of people use it right now, today, for their daily lives and festivals. So what's the actual truth here? Well, to figure that out, we really need to start at the very beginning.
Part 1. Rise of a Great King. Every legendary leader starts somewhere, right? But very few begin quite like this one. Rewind to the 1st century BC. Ujjain was the absolute beating heart of India. And here, a boy was born to King Gandharvarsana of the Parmar dynasty. They named him Vikram, which literally translates to valor and courage. But the thing is, Vikram wasn't your typical prince. While the other royal kids were obsessing over swords and weaponry, he was seeking out scholars, trying to understand the nature of truth. So, the crucial point is exactly how he viewed leadership even as a young kid. There's this famous moment where his guru asks him, "What's the most important thing for a king to have, a sword or intelligence?" Little Vikram just silenced the room. He simply said, "Neither the sword nor the brain. The absolute most important thing for a king is justice, because without justice, a sword is just tyranny, and intelligence is just deceit." That single, powerful philosophy is what forged history's most fiercely just ruler.
But, as you might guess, his path to greatness was a brutal crucible. See, following the sudden death of his father, Vikram's older brother, Shank, just seized the throne of Ujjain. Shank was an oppressive, tyrannical ruler, and he practically immediately forced Vikram into exile. But, you know, fate has a funny way of working things out. Getting stripped of all his royal comforts didn't break him. Actually, scratch that, it built him. Wandering out in the forests, Vikram lived alongside ascetics and regular commoners. He experienced the raw, gritty, everyday struggles of his people completely firsthand. And this forced exile? It was exactly the thing that grounded him. It transformed him from a sheltered, privileged prince into a leader deeply, genuinely connected to the folks he would one day rule.
Part 2. Historic Victory over Shakas.
It was during this exact period of exile that a terrifying crisis hit India. We're talking about the 1st century BC, and a massive, terrifying invasion of ruthless Shaka warriors just swept in from Central Asia. They were capturing huge territories through sheer terror, and yep, they took the sacred city of Ujjain itself. The people were suffering immensely. Watching all this unfold from the forests, Vikram knew it was time to take back his homeland. So he rallied these oppressed local kings and desperate commoners into a makeshift army. They were totally outnumbered, for sure, but Vikram deployed this absolutely brilliant, lightning-fast, three-pronged military strategy. First up, a blistering direct frontline assault. Second, he sent a specialized unit to completely sever the enemy's supply lines. And third, a devastating surprise strike from the rear flank. It worked perfectly. The seemingly invincible Shaka army was totally trapped, completely shattered, and forced to run for their lives.
When Vikram finally marched back into a liberated Ujjain, the entire city just erupted in celebration. But here's the kicker. Instead of heading straight up to the palace to soak in all that personal glory, he bypassed it. He went straight to the Mahakal temple. He dedicated this massive historic victory entirely to the everyday people who fought and bled for their land. And on that very day, in the year 57 BC, he established a brand new era, the Vikram Samvat calendar. I mean, just put that into perspective. Think about how many massive empires have risen and fallen since then, yet this specific calendar is still alive and well in millions of homes today, directly rooted in that exact year and that exact victory.
Part 3. Navaratna Darbar and Kalidas.
Driving out the Shakas really kick-started the golden age of his reign because, you know, a king's true legacy isn't just his military muscle, it's the company he keeps. Vikramaditya established what's known as the Navaratna Darbar, a legendary court of 9 brilliant scholars, each just an absolute powerhouse of intellect. It really proved he valued art, literature, and wisdom way above pure military force. And the absolute crown jewel of these 9 gems, the legendary poet Kalidas. Now, what's really interesting about this is Kalidas's incredible transformation. I mean, he started out as an uneducated youth, literally famous for cutting off the exact tree branch he was sitting on, but thanks to the blessing of the goddess Kali, and honestly the incredibly supportive, nurturing environment that Vikramaditya built in his court, he completely transformed. He became India's absolute greatest literary figure. It's said that when he first recited his masterpiece, Abhigyan Shakuntalam, it was so profoundly beautiful that it moved King Vikramaditya to tears.
Part 4. The 25 Nights of Vetala.
But, well, behind all that glittering brilliance of his court lay a much darker, spine-chilling secret. When the entire city of Ujjain was fast asleep, King Vikramaditya would leave his palace, entirely alone, and he'd head straight out into the terrifying local graveyard. He did this at the request of a mysterious tantric, navigating this horrifying landscape of howling owls and burning pyres just to find one specific ancient tree. And hanging upside down from its branches was a corpse possessed by a seriously powerful ancient spirit known as the Vetala. Capturing this spirit wasn't just a physical challenge. The Vetala presented Vikram with an absolutely impossible trap. It told him, "I'm going to tell you a story," and it ends with a really complex moral riddle. If you know the answer to the riddle and you choose to stay silent, your head will literally explode. But if you speak, I'm going to fly right back to my tree. So what do? Speak, and all your effort is totally wasted. Stay silent, and you die. It was the ultimate, horrifying test of justice and patience. And this agonizing, totally exhausting cycle, it didn't just happen once. It lasted for 25 consecutive nights. Every single night, Vikram would return to that terrifying tree, haul the spirit onto his shoulder, and listen to a completely mind-bending moral dilemma. He would answer truthfully because, well, he had to uphold justice, and then he'd immediately have to watch the spirit fly away, back to the tree. The Vetala was testing his unyielding commitment to his core principles. Unbroken, completely fearless, Vikram just trudged through this impossible, grueling loop, night after exhausted night, 25 times in a row.
Finally, on the 25th night, the Vetala yielded. Vikram declared that a king's duty to justice extends absolutely everywhere. Yes, even to the darkest graveyard. Recognizing his absolute, unwavering dedication, the spirit finally revealed a massive, shocking plot twist. That tantric who sent Vikram on this insane quest in the first place, he was actually plotting to sacrifice the king himself to gain dark, supernatural powers. So, the Vetala's warning, which Vikram only earned through his sheer, stubborn adherence to his duty, ultimately saved the great emperor's life that very night.
Part 5. The mysterious Simhasan Battisi. So, while the Vetala mystery was eventually solved, another incredible legend popped up centuries later, during the reign of King Bhoja of Malwa. King Bhoja noticed something really bizarre happening in his kingdom. There was a simple village boy who, whenever he sat on a specific, mysterious dirt mound, was suddenly capable of making perfectly just, almost divine decisions. Obviously, they decided to excavate the mound. And what did they find? They unearthed the lost, magical throne of Emperor Vikramaditya, which legend says was crafted by Lord Indra himself. But here's the catch. It wasn't just a chair. It was embedded with 32 divine statues. Every single time King Bhoja attempted to sit on it, a statue would awaken, tell a story of Vikram's immense self-sacrifice, and then look right at Bhoja and ask, "Are you truly this worthy?" Completely ashamed, Bhoja would step down, and this happened 32 separate times. And this brilliantly illustrates a key point. True power and justice aren't just demanded by taking a seat. They are earned through legendary self-sacrifice.
Part 6. History and Immortal Legacy. All right, stepping away from the incredible folklore of the mystical throne and the Vetala, let's circle right back to our original burning question. Is this all just a myth? Modern skeptics love to point out a lack of conventional evidence. But we really can't separate folklore from hard history quite that easily. There are actually 3 major pillars of historical evidence that strongly suggest Vikramaditya was entirely real. First up, the Vikram Samvat calendar. A completely fictional king doesn't just leave behind a highly accurate calendar that millions of people use millennia later. Second, we have the classical literature of Kalidas. This work is studied globally, and it explicitly, repeatedly mentions Vikramaditya's court. And third, the physical Ujjain Tekri Mound. It's an actual, tangible, archaeological site. When you put it all together, these really aren't the footprints of a myth. They are the legacy of a profound historical reality. In fact, the ultimate historical revelation here is absolutely staggering. Vikramaditya wasn't just a man's name. He established such an unbelievable, towering standard of nyaya, which is the concept of absolute justice, that Vikramaditya actually became an immortal title. That first great emperor of Ujjain left such an intense impact that centuries later, the absolute greatest rulers in Indian history, emperors like Chandragupta and Skandagupta, they adopted his name as the highest possible honor they could achieve. It literally became synonymous with the ultimate standard of courage and justice in the entire ancient world.
I want to leave you with a deeply powerful thought today. It's a lesson delivered by that final 30-second statue on the mythical throne. The greatest king is the one who can speak the truth to himself. You see, Vikramaditya's true greatness wasn't forged by his sword. It wasn't granted by his divine throne either. It was built on his absolute, unwavering commitment to fairness and internal truth. True justice always starts from within. So here's my question for you. Does that legendary standard of justice still exist within us today? Think about it. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will catch you in the next one.